Hidden Object Guru here, joined by
The Unabridged game.
Weird Whisper, but okay. It is Star Wars Day. Happy May the 4th, everybody. Oh, wait, I'm
Happy
supposed to do May the 4th be. Oh, okay, that's
May
embarrassing.
the Fourth be with
Yeah.
you.
So, PC Gamer put out a list of the best Star Wars games that you can play right now on your PC. And historically, and I mean, we've covered a few of them in the past, uh, PC Gamer's not the best at lists, so I'm excited to see what they have here. All
The
right, so
first one off the bat is just it's like,
Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Well, we all know your feelings about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
yeah, it's not very subtle at this point for me talking about this one. There's only one thing I want to say about what is said in the list for here is that it's a very kind to Fallen Order. I do agree with the writer that, yeah, it definitely doesn't capture the spirit of the Jedi Knight games, but also saying that just because it's clad in Star Wars makes up for it being sloppy as a Souls-like is it no, because I have played Star Wars games that are incredibly sloppy and called them as such. And you can do the same with Fallen Order. We can't just use the context of there hasn't been a huge single player game in a while to be an excuse to be like, okay, yeah, this isn't that good, but hey, it's Star Wars. No, 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 we have
I
to hold.
respect the fans who feel that way, who just want new Star Wars content. But the problem is, if you accept that, then you get bad Star Wars content.
Yeah, it's like we deserve a bit better, and I'm hoping that Respawn nails it with the sequel. That's how it worked out with Titanfall, so hopefully that turns
Fingers
around.
crossed they learn their lesson. As you know, I can't wait on this game because I'm still boycotting it because they don't let you cut up stormtroopers with a lightsaber.
It is worth noting also that the game did just drop a patch today.
That lets you cut up stormtroopers with a lightsaber? I'm
No,
kidding. Of course, that's never happening.
there is a challenge mode where you can customize things and you can play pre-made challenges and all sorts of stuff like that. And there's New Game Plus added. So if you've been waiting for that and you disagree with us and are absolutely head over heels in love with Fallen Order, good for you. You got more now.
There's a big patch. New Game Plus is always welcome. I don't understand why any game doesn't have it. Well, any game that has character progression. Obviously,
Yeah.
you don't need New Game Plus in an Uncharted game because you don't learn new skills.
yeah, my own. No, I'm sorry. Anyway,
I know.
uh,
One thing though, before I move on, I will say that complaining as I do about the lack of being able to cut people up with lightsabers reminds me a little of the game Rise, Son of Rome, which
mm,
we've talked about in the past, and how inexcusable one thing, like the thing that turned me against that game in the end, is that it's like you've got 10 different types of enemies, you've got 30 different types of execution, and there's not one beheading in the entire game. It's madness. Like none of the like you can cut off people's legs, you can cut off people's arms, you can drive spears and swords all the way through people, but not one character in that game can you cut off their head. And I'm like, you've completely botched what should be the cornerstone of the awesome execution experience. And that's what that game got me thinking of. Next up, Republic Commando. Well, this thing is just fantastic.
oh yeah, which could incidentally, I want to say just like
Oh
you're
yeah.
talking about gore. Republic Commando did enough that it got an M rating in Germany. Like
Wow.
there's almost every enemy has dismemberable parts. There's actually more destructibility with certain environmental assets than you'll see in a modern game, which is in part thanks to how small scale it is. It's a tactical shooter. They don't want to give you too much to handle at any given point, but still, you can watch Geonosians explode in front of you. You take out a
Oof.
Trandoshan's breathing tube and his jetpack, and he'll go flying and exploding.
That's fantastic. I've been so long since I've played this, I've forgotten those details. But this thing, one of those things that I got right away and played all the way through because it is just dynamite.
Oh yeah, it
So
is.
well paced. The team commands work great. I hope it's still very playable on the PC. I haven't tried it on a modern
GOG
PC.
fixed the one issue. There was an issue with bump mapping, and a fan patch re-enables it. But
Okay.
and remarkably, there is limited mod support because it was based in just standard Unreal 3, if someone has UDK, they can fiddle around with it. It's very cumbersome to do so, so there's not a ton of campaigns. I
Ah.
offer as a quick aside, though, given one of the comments made with regards to Republic Commando, one, you're not playing a clone captain. You're all clone commandos. You've just been assigned as squad lead. And also, Star Wars Bounty Hunter is Metal Gear Solid and Hitman combined with Max Payne. How dare you?
Okay. Weird thing to bring up while we're talking about Republic
It's
Commando, but
no, it's just in the same thing. Bounty Hunter gets thrown under the
the
bus.
bus. Gotcha.
And it's like, yeah,
We'll get there. Yeah, no, that's true. He does say nonsense like Racer, Revenge, and Bounty Hunter, but we'll save that till later. Empire at War. Oh my god, I loved this game when it first came out because this is a perfect example of you've got a genre I already love, right? You've got a real-time strategy game. I've been playing those since Dune 2 back in the day. I love real-time strategy games, base building, sending out troops, harvesting resources. I'm a big fan of all of it. And you put that in the Star Wars universe and you make it work with all the Star Wars tech. Oh my god, it is beautiful. I played it then. I recently replayed it because I bought it all on Steam. I love this franchise.
I had a very complicated relationship with Empire at War. When I was a kid, I was super excited about it, but I struggled because weirdly, real-time strategy was a thing that, like, when I was like age 5, I could play stuff like Europa Universalis. By the time that Empire at War came out, my RTS skills had atrophied a bit, but over time I've learned it, and actually, this Saturday, for research, I played through the first game again, and I'm going to be playing around with Forces of Corruption, and I really feel like Forces of Corruption is the one that definitely demands like a ton of attention, because hey, what if we made GTA as a strategy game in the Star Wars universe? Like, that is just kind of patently insane, and they made it work. And
Well, it's an amazing premise.
oh yeah, and Tyler Zahn, he is an immediately iconic character. Everyone that he surrounds himself with. I really wish they had gotten the chance to make the third game or expansion or whatever it was they were teasing at the end there, because clearly they had a really just bonkers awesome idea. And it's worth mentioning that, again, Empire at War, awesome mod community. Like, the modders have added more management stuff for those of us who prefer, to actually manage the minutia of their faction. They've added tons more eras. You can basically play almost any version of Star Wars at this point, whether it's Knights of the Old Republic. There's like a half dozen different Clone Wars eras. There's one of the most impressive ones is about the Thrawn trilogy and letting you actually play What If with that. And just so many different reinterpretations, because Petroglyph basically left everything open for people to fiddle around with. Like, it's kind of boggling how eager they were to let modders just go hog wild. And the map editor was stupid easy to use. Even as a kid, I was able to easily make levels that were fully playable. So, and now, as TC Gamer notes, the multiplayer is active again, and the multiplayer allows for mod maps and mod campaigns and stuff like that too. So, yeah,
Not only a really good game, but just a wonderful game to be able to play with.
Yeah, it's a full experience, and for that I have to give considerable respect to.
That's fantastic. All right, next up, Rogue Squadron. Aww.
I am still...
I loved that game.
I did too, and then I replayed it, and I was like, wow, I was a lot more patient as a kid.
Yeah, it's janky.
Yeah, I mean, not only just because, wow, the port, even now they've got it working, it's like, it technically works in the same way that playing Dante's Inferno on the PS3 emulator on your PC works. It boots.
It can be loaded, but that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, but still, it was a landmark title for its time. It was one of my first experiences. Honestly, it was one of my first experiences in gaming. Like, I remember it as one of the first games I ever played. I remember the day my dad came home early from work. He had a copy of the game with him in, like, one of those old big boxes.
Nice.
And we played several levels. So, like, I still appreciate it. And goodness me, as a technical showcase for the N64, it was miles ahead of its time. But,
yeah. But honestly, this thing has been completely, and I mean, we can't play it now, so it's not really relevant to this list. But oh my god, the sequel is so fantastic. Rogue Leader. Oh, I consider that to be this is superior in every way. So much cleaner, so much easier to play. I loved this at the time, don't get me wrong, but Rogue Leader's the game. I
Yeah.
just sad that that's not available to play on PC the way Rogue Squadron is. Although, according to you, it's not really playable on PC. So maybe
Yeah.
take this one with a grain of salt, guys.
Yeah. One quick thing I'll say is if you do pursue Rogue Squadron, there's two different executables in the folder.
Right.
The one that is longer named, if I remember correctly, is the modern one. They, for some reason, left the old executable in there, and it runs even worse. So,
Okay.
you want to keep mindful of that.
Oh, oh my god. All right, next up, I think everyone's favorite, Knights of the Old Republic. Yeah.
Fun fact,
People
I actually
adore this game.
experienced the KOTOR series in reverse.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at the time, finding an original copy of Knights of the Republic was like a needle in a haystack for where I lived because I didn't get it on the time they had first released. So
Oh, yeah.
until I
You gotta
got
pick
the
up a used copy.
yeah, I had to wait till the Best of PC collection finally came out. So I experienced KOTOR 2 first, and it was surreal experiencing the first one because the first one weirdly you can definitely tell that it's a game where BioWare was kicking the tires, trying to figure out how can we make a console CRPG. And in many ways, they cut a beautiful swath ahead, but you can also feel them a bit more constrained than what would come later because they had to fit a lot of archetypes in. They had to follow a lot of traditional rules. They wanted everyone to be as happy as possible, even if it means, yes, we're going to freaking Tatooine for the 50th time.
People like Tatooine. They like fighting slave. They like slave revolts in Dune. What is they dealing with slaves and finding those dune serpents out on Tatooine. People love dune serpents. I don't know exactly how to justify the existence of a dune serpent, but you certainly fight one in the game.
Yeah,
And it's
cryo
great.
dragons are no joke.
It's a pretty scary monster, but it's a fun scene. But you're right. Going to all of the familiar planets, I mean, you're absolutely right that it is fan service after fan service after fan service.
And
But I mean, as like the combat, I think is great. I think there's a really easy way to cheese the system by playing as a rogue and allowing yourself to get 4 pistol shots per turn by playing. I think everyone did that at one point. By playing with your upgrades, you can get 4 pistol shots per turn, and it makes every fight a joke. But the actual combat is very satisfying. The sound effects are great. The graphical effects are great. I've seen it running on a modern PC, and it looks stunning.
the voice
still.
acting is
It's
just
some of the
so
best.
good. And I will also say, and I'm not going to spoil it still because someone should still experience it.
That's true.
The plot twist is still one of the best.
Oh
in
yeah, no,
the
it's
entire
got
series.
it's got a great couple of reveals in there that I think everyone should experience for the first time for themselves if they haven't played it already. You know, like, or if they haven't had it spoiled. You know what? Don't read anything more about the story. It's definitely worth checking out for yourself. I think we can agree on that one.
Oh yeah.
All right, Star Wars Galaxies. I can't weigh in on this. I don't play online games.
I got to try it a bit, and what I can say is I'm so freaking glad that people have emulated it. For one very particular reason, personally to me, this is probably the closest we will ever get to Star Wars meets Freelancer without mods. Like the actual space upgrade, because the ground combat, both pre and post combat update, which was a rather notorious update where they streamlined everything, where it used to be you just built your own character and you really had to work at becoming a Jedi, to, no, we're just going to have World of Warcraft style classes, which not a lot of people were happy about. But regardless of that, the ground stuff was mostly useful for role-playing. That's what you really went for there, and for the PvP stuff. But the space combat was like X-Wing Alliance, but with a better engine. It just was surprisingly satisfying. It was really great to experience. You could bump into other players up there. You get into dogfights.
I
The
will. I'm going to say something that I think you're going to agree with, but I'm going to say it anyway, even though it'll sound cliche at this point. I don't understand why. I mean, I know EA is terrible at everything and just sucks at everything that they're supposed to do. But the simplicity of being able to sell, like, the amount of copies they could sell of a new PC focused X Wing game with modern graphics, and literally you could just take the mechanics of X Wing and just give it modern graphics and resell it, and everyone on Earth would buy that game. They would sell, and then you could have, you could also have a multiplayer component so people could have, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter duels in space. You have, famous planets, blah, blah. This is the easiest sell in history. And how long have they been holding on to these rights to Star Wars?
I'm gonna make this worse for you. I just sent you a link. So here's
Oh,
a fun
no.
fact. Rebel Galaxy, Double Damage. Double Damage. Rebel Galaxy Outlaw is based
Yeah.
on this unapproved pitch. They had a fully working demo for a new Star Wars X-Wing game. It even had hot swapping like in Battlefield 2 Modern
Where you
Combat,
could jump from ship to ship and, oh.
and it looks fantastic. They captured all the aesthetics. You could go inside of the cockpit and
Oh
out.
my god, look at that. I'm
And
just
then,
showing it on the video right now.
and then, well,
Oh
EA
my
was
god, that
like,
looks so good!
we're just not interested in this.
Wait 1 second, I want to see if how the lasers, the turbo lasers sound.
You made yourself
Yeah,
very easy
of
to
course they
find.
sound perfect. Of course everything about this is perfect.
The
So
good
you're
news is-
saying that Double Damage went and showed this to EA, and EA didn't just hand them all the money to go and make this?
Nope, they did not. And
I mean,
they
I'm watching the Millennium Falcon shoot at Slave 1. And
Yep.
no one gave them all the money for this.
Nope. And
Okay. EA, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, the upside is this game does exist as Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, and
Okay.
given the
I'm gonna
amount
go buy a copy of Rebel Galaxy Outlaw today. Jesus.
because it's like that's pretty much I have to say, if you come up with a pitch this good, yes, please just make an original turn on this if they aren't going for it, because
Yeah, look at it.
my goodness.
Well, no, but what I wanted to say was, and this I think factors into this because it may have inspired them, right?
Mhm.
But wow, because I played the first Rebel Galaxy Outlaw. That's a sequel, right?
Yeah, actually, it's I believe Outlaw is a prequel to the first one.
Okay, but the point is, I played the first one and it was much more sedate. Like, it was not get into a cockpit. It was like capital ships. You were making the move slowly. You had to do
Oh yeah.
a lot of tactical maneuvering. You're saying, and that's why I mean, I played it, but I didn't love it. And that's why I didn't even look at the prequel. But you're telling me the prequel
Oh
is
yeah,
the
you're,
new
you're
X-Wing game.
one woman out for revenge. I believe some
Oh, my
guy
God.
killed your husband, and you just go all out for trying to kill him, and you're
And,
constant.
but the important part is, it's just this. It is
yeah, you're dogfighting.
dogfighting. Okay, well, that's what I'm doing tonight. I got my May the 4th locked down. This is insane. How could they not have? Oh, how could you not have bought this game? And the thing I was going to say is, I know I'm one of them, but I know, in addition to myself, 5 different people who bought Star Wars Battlefront just so they could play the VR X-Wing mission.
Hmm.
And by the way, and I want to point this out, I mean, we all bought it on sale once it was, discounted because we weren't looking for the multiplayer component. But there is a huge market out there for a dogfighting game in Star Wars that EA for 7 years now has refused to even look at filling that desire.
Okay, it's actually a little more complicated than that. I'm going to really quickly explain.
Please.
Disney was going to do a free-to-play PC game, and I can't comment on the state of it because I was actually a participant in the game's early closed beta test.
Oh.
But I will say that they never pursued it, which still kind of confuses me. There were things that I think they could have adjusted and it would have worked out, but I can't say anything more because
Okay.
technically I'm still considered under
Under
NDA
the
for that.
NDA. All right.
But
Okay.
the other thing with that is I agree though because Criterion made a very similar model to this for Battlefront 2. It plays amazingly, and then they never had them release more than 6 maps total for the
Ugh.
mode.
But I mean, people want to dogfight in Star Wars. That is
It's
something
called
that every
Star
time.
Wars.
But now, every time a game like that has come out, it's done well. They sold boatloads of what was the Phantom Menace Starfighter? What was it
Yeah,
called?
Starfighter.
Starfighter. They sold millions of well, not millions, but hundreds of thousands of copies of that. There is money on the table for Disney, LucasArts, EA to just not a free to play online nonsense, just remakes X-Wing, give us a new one set in the Old Republic, give us one set in the Clone Wars. It doesn't matter. People wanted to get into a starfighter and do strafing runs on giant spaceships. That's what they want. They want to weave through canyons and drop bombs on facilities. They want to use towing cables to take down AT-AT. So I mean, I know what people want, and what they want is a new Star Wars flight sim. And why aren't they giving it to us?
I don't know, man. It's
All
just it's been
right.
such a mess. But anyway, yes, the
Next up,
main
next up. Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast. Well,
uh
that's just a miracle because, and this is what I love about this game. They made all of the enemies dismemberable, and then the ratings agency couldn't said you can't have dismemberable enemies in the game, and they're like, oh really, we can't? Oh well, I guess we're not, the enemies can't be dismemberable anymore. And then it's like literally one setting in the config.sys whether enemies can be dismembered or not, and someone leaked out how easy it was to turn that on the day the game came out. That made me so happy.
Meanwhile, for me, Jedi Outcast pretty much encapsulates everything that drives me bonkers about Raven Software's shooters.
Yeah.
Like the level design that hates you.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
that first Nar Shaddaa level basically feels like someone went, I hate video game players, and I want them to know it.
I want it to be completely unclear what I'm supposed to do. I want it to be impossible to navigate, and I want the enemies to be completely unfairly placed. Yes, no. I'm not saying they're great at design. I'm saying this game let me chop up enemies.
Oh, and I appreciate it. The thing is, the lightsaber is the one good part. Like, everybody talks about how it's this revolutionary lightsaber system, but yes, but the second anytime the game makes you not use your lightsaber,
You're right. It's completely trash. No, absolutely.
and that just, I mean, I'm not sure how that happens because I know Raven Software, for in my opinion, they've had a rocky performance over time, but they're not incompetent or anything. It's just I know part of the problem is that apparently Jedi Outcast had to be put together in like literally a year's time. Like they slapped Hexen together with some of the Elite Force code. Seriously, one of the
Oof.
developers, the guy who designed lightsaber combat, did an interview and he's like, "Yeah, we had to push this together really quickly, so that's part of the reason why, and also part of the reason why Jedi Academy basically just went, okay, this was our tech demo. Now we're gonna actually make a real Jedi Knight game now." But
That explains how much fun Jedi Academy is.
yeah, it's like Jedi Outcast should have had another year's time. Then it probably would have been as good as Jedi Academy, at least in gameplay. The story where you fight Barney the dinosaur and his angry hippie flower girl sidekick as they team up with a mecha anime guy from out of Metal Gear, that part I'm not sure anyone could salvage.
Oh, damn. All right. Knights. Okay, well, we already talked about it here, so we don't have to do the next item on the list. Knights of the Old Republic 2, the Sith Lords.
It's
Great.
good.
It's great. I don't care that they had to cut out a bunch of content. Like I'm sure you remember all of the the internet surus over all of the stuff that got cut out of that game.
Oh yeah, I was one of the people watching Team Gizka slowly restore it through mods and such over the
Yeah,
years.
and it's like now you can see most of the stuff they cut. I think some of it was unfinished, but now you can see most of the stuff they cut. But here we are, more than a decade past that drama. It's still a really good game, and it's the best time to play it because the modding community has finished it in a way that BioWare wasn't allowed to.
Obsidian.
Which is... sorry, Obsidian wasn't allowed to. Ugh. That was embarrassing. But yes, in a way that Obsidian was not allowed to at the time. That happens to Obsidian a lot, though.
Yeah!
Like, it is one of my favorite Star Wars stories. It is brutal. It's scary at times. It's super intense. I'm a huge fan of this game. Everyone needs to check it out.
I personally attribute this game to why I got into role-playing as a hobby. Like, not even just role-playing games, role-playing in general. And also made me... Yeah, it was like an introductory class to philosophy, because me as a kid at the time, this was my first ever role-playing game ever. This is the first one I ever experienced, and it's like, this is intense. And to this day, I know that not everyone loves the opening with Paragus, but I love that it feels so much like a proper starter to a tabletop role-playing game. Like, where KOTOR 1 was very much, here's a CRPG, but it also works on consoles and it's more active. Knights of the Old Republic 2 is like having a real digital dungeon master just sitting there opposite you.
No, I mean, I totally understand your point, where it really does feel like they're tailoring the experience to you because they have so many options you can do in every situation. I was blown away the first time I played Knights of the Old Republic about how many ways there were to resolve situations and how well it all blended together and how much, honestly, it anticipated what I wanted to do, and KOTOR 2's even better at doing that. So yeah, just an incredible game that if you haven't played it, we're not going to tell you anything about the plot, just play it. Now, next up, we've got something we've already talked about, which is Jedi Academy, which, I mean, it's just fantastic. Mm-hmm. I love that game even more than I love Dark Forces and Jedi Knight and Outcast. I mean, they're amazing. Such great lightsaber battles. Okay, next up we have, the original Battlefront II.
Oh my goodness! You see, I gotta be honest. Back when I first experienced it, because at the time, poor kid. I experienced the first one when the second one was just coming out, and it's like, oh, this one is fun. And then I get into the second one, and it's like, do you want to play the tutorial? And I'm like, no. I played the first one. This should be...
I'll just jump right into this.
And then it's like, what the hell is happening? Why do jet troopers cost points now? What is going on? Why does this campaign suddenly have arrows pointing me to things?
Yep.
It was such a weird overhaul, especially because the thing is, this is another case of a Star Wars game rushed out in a year, because for some reason, the people in charge at LucasArts thought you could just make a sequel in a year, just easy peasy. I don't know what led them to this delusion. But it's why, like, the campaign mode was literally assembled in a couple of months. They originally planned it to be a multiplayer-only experience.
That would have been a disaster.
And there's whole maps and stuff that they plan to import, because the thing is, it's the same tech. Like, if you are on PC and you have the level editor, which was freely available for everyone, you could literally just take maps from Battlefront 1, convert them through the map editor for Battlefront 2, put them in, and it was like nothing had changed. Like, it was that close. It just was that the actual nitty-gritty got changed around a bit. But still, there was a ton of cut content. There were modes and everything that were dropped from it in the middle of development.
Also, you got to play as Jedi.
Yeah, there was...
Not much. You don't get to play as Jedi very often, but it's a lot of fun when you load up and are suddenly playing as a Jedi. I really did enjoy that.
I also appreciate the variety, like having the different hunt modes where it could be as Wampas or as Tusken Raiders. That was nice. I feel like the space combat was actually a lot weaker than everyone was expecting it to be.
Right.
They did not seem to have the time to make there be real consequences. Like, you take out life support and everyone's fine. But
they can all hold their breath. What do you want?
But I do feel like it's a foundational game. It's another key game that got me into role-playing. My first role-playing group actually used the game and mods to be able to have sessions in private servers.
Nice.
And the sense of community was really the reason I stuck with Battlefront 2, because on a purely mechanical level, I feel like in some ways the first one captures more of the actual aesthetic of being in Star Wars, whereas this one, it's technically more mechanically solid, but it has some weird jank in between there. But it's still, the community was just awesome. You could go on a server and it was like cheers. Everyone knows who the hell you are. The regulars are just always there. I still remember some of them, and like, I wonder what happened to those people, because I never knew them on a first name basis. I only knew them through their usernames. But if I saw Lord Zigor or someone else pop up in Battlefront, I'd be like, "Hey, I know you."
It's fun because I'm so happy to see that this is still playable on PC and that there exists a community who, as you said, modded it, imported old maps. Because I only ever played it on the Xbox, the original Xbox, and I enjoyed it, but knowing that it's so much more in the PC just makes me happier. And now, of course, next up is the most obvious pick in history, TIE Fighter, which is...
It's just really freaking good. And it's the one thing I will say about it that I think saddens me, but is also the truth is, I don't expect us to ever get a game like this again, because it doesn't pull, like... And this is a spoiler for the new modern Battlefront 2, but realistically, you should just know this going in, because it's just a disappointment. They act like you're going to be the villain, and then they're like, actually, never mind, you're a good guy now. TIE Fighter's like, no, you're with the Empire. We're called TIE Fighter.
You're the bad guys.
Have fun with being the bad guy. You can
And that's
do that.
all it is.
And it does a beautiful
fantastic.
job of it.
Yep. No, it's amazing, and you're right that they might not ever give us a chance to do this again. Although I will say, EA, you're leaving money on the table if you don't just do a high graphics, exact one-to-one remake of this game. Millions of words have been written about how perfect TIE Fighter is, and it's one of my favorite games of all time. I mean, I hesitated on playing it because I loved X-Wing, which, duh, is the next item on the list. I played X-Wing obsessively over and over and over again. You know, I must have played all the way through the campaign 5 or 6 times. And I was playing TIE Fighter came out, and I'm like, do I really want to play as the bad guys? But people assured me that no, this thing is even better than X-Wing, and you're going to love it. And they were right. They were absolutely right.
Oh, yeah. And
oh, it's incredible.
And the thing is, honestly, it makes more sense than ever for them to remake it, because Thrawn is in the new canon, and they're making all this stuff about him, even after what happened in Rebels, which is all I'll say to not spoil people. But yeah, Thrawn's a thing again, and he was a major centerpiece of the TIE Fighter game, so now would be the perfect time.
It's the perfect time to bring it back, too. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It would knit in so easily, but instead, I know there's a TIE Fighter comic book, but that's not exactly the same thing.
No, not at all. Next up, well, we don't have to talk about this one because we've already talked about the Old Republic. They've really botched how they ordered this list, haven't they?
Yeah, it's a very oddly ordered list. I do want to actually say something specifically about the Old Republic specifically, though.
Please.
I am so grateful that it exists. Yeah. Despite the fact that it's an MMO, despite the fact that its monetization makes no sense, not simply because it is currently the last bastion of the old expanded universe. It's the only thing that's producing new content in that era, which in of itself is a really weird decision in my opinion. But regardless, I love that it had the bravery to do more than just become the Jedi storyline. So they could the Imperial Agent storyline for the Sith Empire has been considered one of the best BioWare RPGs that you can play. It's the closest we've gotten to BioWare's take on Alpha Protocol.
Okay.
You can actually become a double agent and everything. You can completely subvert the state of the Sith Empire, and it's respected in your storyline. There's a bounty hunter storyline where also you can choose where you actually stand in the conflict. You don't have to necessarily be completely down with what the Sith are doing. You can be a gray Jedi or Sith. And both have storylines that actually explore that. You can be a Jedi who relies heavily on the dark side. And there's some fascinating character conversations that happen to this. Different romance options unlock based on what you're doing. And on top of that, they've kept it going as essentially a Telltale but BioWare style a continuing story that's unraveled at times and just presented all these different possibilities, culminating in what is essentially a fourth game in the Knights of the Republic series. Seriously, the Eternal Throne and Fallen Empire expansions are essentially another single-player game hidden inside an MMO. That's an achievement in of itself.
That is incredible. I just wish they had sold it to me as a game rather than expecting me to go and play an MMO and spend money or grind for dozens of hours.
Yeah, that's the main thing that gives me pause too. That's the one real shame.
Like the commitment they're asking me to do, and it's like, guys, I would have bought this if it was a game, but no, you want me to hang out with huge amounts of people on crowded servers. You want me to do player versus player combat. You want me to get involved in raids. And
I mean, you don't have to do that for most of the things, but there are certain story beats that are
based
exclusive
around
to
the
Strike
multiplayer
missions.
aspect, of course. And I mean, they always are. And that's my issue.
Yeah. Thankfully, the majority of it they did leave that you could solo because they knew that they're a BioWare game. People are going to want to play it solo. But yeah, the main thing for me is the grind. That with every MMO, it's like just give me the power level so that I can just move on and actually play your game.
Yep.
And someday I might finally bite the bullet and just be like, okay, here's $10. Give me the power. Just let me freaking play the story. But until
That's
then,
nice.
it's gonna be like, I love what I've seen through YouTube and what I got to play through the beta.
Yeah. But no, like even you, the biggest Star Wars fan I know, aren't getting into the MMO because it's an MMO. Next up, Episode 1, Racer. No. What? I just didn't enjoy this. when
Really?
It was
You
originally
are the
out.
only person I know who does not like this game.
I just never enjoyed it. I wish I could say I did.
I
Please
played
tell me why you love it.
crap ton as a kid. Well, for me, it was one of my first racing games besides Lego Racer, and
Yeah.
the way you could customize the pod and you had to manage it, and the levels. Some of the levels that you unlock later on were spectacular. Like you could be racing through actual lava tubes as the flow is chasing after you, or you're on these platforms that are hovering high above the clouds. And some of the tracks were legitimately challenging. Like, it starts
Yeah,
off
that's true.
and it's like, this is a kid's game. You can easily blaze through this. And I will say also it was really fun to play with a joystick back in the day, because that was the time in my life when I played with a joystick. And gosh, I miss games that actually properly use joysticks. But
Have you played it recently in its re-release?
yeah, and I had fun with it.
And it's working fine? Like GOG has
Oh
got
yeah,
it working
GOG did
perfectly?
a miracle work with that. Well, the problem with that one wasn't that the engine itself couldn't work. The problem was
Right.
that the installer was made for like 16-bit systems. That's what's That's the problem with a lot of Star Wars games. Like they earlier mentioned Episode 1 Battle for Naboo, another fun one. And also Star Wars Starfighter, another fun one. And weirdly, both hitting similar premises, but with one with more poly count. Both of those, the issue was the installer wasn't working very well, so someone had to figure out how to port it over to a can install.
And that's what GOG is for, yeah.
And that's what I'm waiting for with some other ones. That's the issue with the Phantom Menace game, which was really frigging cool. And yeah, just I'm waiting for them to work that out with more of the games, because there's a bunch of classic Star Wars that still needs to be ported over, and you can't tell me they don't have the source code sitting around somewhere.
Of course they do. Come on.
But
There's no way they don't.
yeah.
But yeah, okay. Well, you know what? When it goes on sale, I'll give Racer another try. I will watch on GOG. Actually, what am I saying? It's probably on sale today.
It's $3.49.
All right, well, I'll just go buy that when I'm getting Rebel Galaxy tonight. All right, next up we have Dark Forces, which we've already discussed. It's one of the, the first era of great big, great big corporations making their own Doom/Duke Nukem style games, and it's great. I loved this as a kid because it was the first time you got to have Star Wars aesthetic in a shooter. The sound effects, the locations, the graphics, it was all beautiful. And, God bless the guy who came up with the plot, because he would, of course, that plot he wrote would lead to the creation of Rogue One all of those years later. Because Rogue One is an adaptation of Dark Forces. which is crazy to think about, but it is.
Kind of. Also, there's a Han Solo book to thank, but that's a story for another time.
Yes.
But yeah, Dark Forces, it holds up amazingly well. And here's a weird thing for me that stuck out with me though, because for the longest time it wasn't available on PC, but it was available via PlayStation 1 Classics on PS3. So I picked it up on there. It plays insanely well for a console shooter from the 90s.
No, it's great. Like, it's really, really good. Like, I had this both on PC and on PlayStation, and it's fantastic. Like, it was a perfect port, and it's so smooth. I mean, I'd imagine it was so smooth at the time. I can only imagine it's still working perfectly today. Yeah, it's a great game. Dark Forces. I mean, honestly, I like the whole Dark Forces series.
Yeah, I the first three, Dark Forces, Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2. By the way, such a weird naming scheme this series had.
I know.
And
Jedi
then,
Knight Dark Forces 2, then Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, then Jedi
no.
Anyways.
There's another
What am
one.
I forgetting? Oh.
Jedi Knight Mysteries of the Sith, which wants mentioning because that, alongside Shadows of the Empire, was one of the first times they tried to weave the expanded universe into the greater span of everything. So you got to play as Mara Jade. Mara Jade finally had a voice. She gets a starring role in this extra game that ties into the events of Dark Forces. And it's kind of amazing for one thing at the end, and it's going to be a spoiler, and I'm just telling you, everyone right now, if you're listening and you're that worried it's a spoiler, I'm sure most people don't care, but it does something that I feel like Jedi frickin' Fallen Order should have.
Which
Mysteries of the Sith understands that violence isn't the inherent way of the Jedi. The Jedi will fight for justice and everything, but they are not inherently trying to murder everyone. So when you get to the end of the game, and this is why in Jedi Outcast Kyle isn't using the Force at the start of it, is he fell to the dark side. He went to one of these planets where the Sith used to really were just all up in there, and it was itself a tie-in to some other comics at the time. And Mara finds him, and you're fighting him, and the thing is, if you just keep fighting him, he just keeps fighting back. It's an endless cycle. The only way to win the boss fight is to disengage your lightsaber, and then he tries to strike you down, but then it snaps him out of it. It's not until you stop fighting him and actually embody what the light side of the Force is supposed to be about that you finally actually are able to achieve peace and do what a Jedi should.
Yeah, weird that they would miss that in the, Dark Souls-like action game that is trying to sell millions of copies. I'm being sarcastic, of course. No, there's no way they were going to end a big-budget AAA Star Wars game like that. They should have. I agree with you that, based on how good that ending sounds, that sounds like a great way to end it, but there's no way Respawn was ever going to do that. Okay, they have a final entry here. The Secret Best Star Wars Screen Entertainment.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with this at all.
Apparently it's a screensaver thing, and they also jumped that Yoda's stories is the secret best, and I'm not even going to address Yoda's stories. That was a thing that happened.
Yoda Stories is a roguelike. Is a roguelite randomized adventure game where you it's got puzzle and adventure elements, and you run around doing things, and the map is randomized every time. So it's cute and it's fun, but it's not the best anything.
Yeah, no, it's just okay. But yes, the best.
I mean, honestly, it's not a terrible list. Like, they've got a lot of great things on here, and there's a lot of good things that you should absolutely try out. Is there something they'd missed that you'd like to recommend?
See, I'm torn.
Because I'm going to recommend something that you convinced me to go and check out again, which was the PC port of Shadows of the Empire.
Well, I'm thankful that you said that, because that means I don't have to make that be my pick.
Okay, good. No, because you convinced me to give it another chance on the PC, and yeah, it's janky as hell, but that game had so many interesting ideas. It did so many things really well. It's such a fun story that I'm sad to not see it on this list. Because absolutely, it's on GOG. It can be played, as crazy as that sounds.
Oh, you can. It's one of the few shooters I can think of where it's actually easier to play it with just your keyboard. Like, seriously, it handles so intuitively.
It really works. And so I would encourage people to check out Shadows of the Empire, where you get to play as Dash Rendar having an awesome action adventure. It's very cool. Do you have a pick as well?
Well, the obvious one, and when it comes to me saying this, I know everyone's expecting me to go out and just say The Force Unleashed should be on there, but I also know that the first one's port was less than ideal. The second one does have a few mods, but they're not great. But the Star Wars game that I actually recommend, and it's down to like $4 US on Steam right now, and it's worth getting the DLC for it because the DLC is legit some of the best levels in it. Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Ooh.
Yeah, here's why. This is the best kid-friendly Rogue Squadron 3D meets Gears of War meets a traditional Lego game experience that I've ever seen. Like, they make cover-based shooting appropriate. Like, if you nail a headshot, instead a trooper's helmet gets spun around, or he falls over and then stands back up, and then he realizes his blaster is now a banana and he runs off scared. Like,
that's adorable.
It is, and the beautiful thing is, it fixes the story of the movie.
That is a nice surprise, and this is available on PC.
Yes, it's available on PC. There are a few key binding weirdnesses, so if you can use a controller, because the default controls are odd, but yeah, you see, they got the entire cast back. Even Carrie Fisher, may she rest in peace, came back to do extra lines. And
wow,
almost everyone seems to be having a blast. Harrison Ford isn't, but he's Harrison Ford, so of course he sounds like he's ready to cut someone because someone wrote in the script that he has to say Wookiee cookie with a straight face.
Harrison Ford is only happy when he's in some sort of World War II plane flying around Colorado.
Yeah,
it's Harrison Ford. He doesn't need this anymore.
But besides that, a lot of the characters are given more development, more times to actually interact. The lore of the movie actually exists this time. You get to experience things. What the hell happened to Poe is one of the DLC expansions. The Phantom Limb comic, which explains what happened to 3PO's arm, is told in surprisingly genuine, dramatic detail in this Lego game. And they even have a prelude bit where they do a very Tantive 4-style boarding as Phasma. Phasma doesn't just fold over when you attack her. She is a full-on boss fight in this game, because this is back before they decided that, oh yeah, Phasma is just so much of a coward that she'll betray everyone. They're like, no! She is this full-on boss fight. She's got a mounted turret. She taunts you the entire time. You feel like, okay, this is what the
character they pitched us should have been in the first place.
And it does so much stuff like that. And it also, and I love this so much, and I know that the Kylo Ren fans will be annoyed, but they call out Kylo Ren for being this very whiny, frustrated fanboy of Darth Vader. They have so much fun making fun of how inept he really is in this movie, and his lightsaber is constantly not working, and it's always in the best. The slapstick is beautiful, and the thing is, I understand. My dad is one of those people who was not really sold on The Force Awakens alongside me. I showed him this game when he was here for a bit, and he was like, "Yeah, oh my gosh, this is. I wish this was the movie that we had received because." People are allowed to talk. The whole J.J. Abrams problem of all plot and explosion, no time for talking, is solved here because it's a video game. You have
so
to
people have time to talk. Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. All right, so this is a surprising recommend. This was one I wasn't expecting, so I'm going to encourage. I'll go look to see how much it costs today. You've already convinced me to buy 2 games today, so I might not get this one as well. But absolutely, everybody check out Star Wars Lego The Force Awakens. Wow.
And here's the thing that I'm excited about with all this is, not only is this happening,
yeah,
and as I said, the DLC also very much worth it because they stick so many characters in, and the character creator is also superb. But the next game they're making is the entire Skywalker saga, where everything they learned from this, they're incorporating into a full-scale thing that takes all of the 9 base movies and makes them this one flowing organic space that you can just explore and engage with, which means they might be able to fix the Rise of Skywalker while they're at it.
You know what? This is a true story. I hate Revenge of the Sith. for a lot of reasons that I'm not going to go into today. So, release day, I was going to go see Revenge of the Sith. Like a lot of nerds. I was not the only one who was excited to do that. I mean, I would have been disappointed by the other prequels, but I wanted to give them a chance to fix things at the end. But the day before, because you could buy it the day before, I had purchased Lego Star Wars. And that, of course, had the entire plot of Revenge of the Sith in there. And I debated briefly, like, oh, should I have this plot spoiled for it? And then I was told, he turns out to be Darth Vader. There, I just spoiled the plot. Turns out Anakin's Darth Vader. I'm like, okay, you make a strong point. This isn't really something that can be spoiled. So I went and I played the whole video game, and it's an amazing video game. And so, weirdly, I had a better experience with Revenge of the Sith because I played the video game before I saw the movie. But that just made the movie disappoint me even further.
Yeah, it kind of was the same thing for me, because, like, I replayed the game, and then I revisited the movie to be like, am I really being this harsh on the movie for no good reasons? Like, no, the game does a better job.
Yeah, the game does a much better job.
And
all
the
right.
thing,
please, go.
I just want to say, I don't know how this is the case. It just keeps happening with Lego and Star Wars recently, because they also did this one TV show, Legend of the Freemakers. Easily the best bit of Star Wars TV put out since the relaunch and everything. It's so weird. It's just, Lego still has all the things that they're careful about, like Disney, but they're better at it. And I wish that Disney would just learn from them, because they do such a good job with it.
Oh, it's so frustrating. All right, so that has been our journey through PC Gamer's May the 4th article. We hope you got some good recommendations, and I found it much better than the articles we normally check out there, but it was May the 4th, so we had to do it. Normally we're just here to complain. Here, today, we're here to celebrate. So would you like to remind people where to find your stuff, Elijah?
Yes, I am going to be doing an entire month of Star Wars recommendations outside of this, especially for those who like to play on consoles. For a second look on Escapist Magazine, my latest piece was on Rocket Birds, and the first Star Wars piece will be going up very soon, and I'm super excited. We did a poll, and everybody is on board with the games that I want to talk about. So we're going to be kind of touching on some really awesome hidden gems there. So I'm very excited for that. And Unabridged Gamer has got new content coming up soon. Black Ops 4 is coming this Friday. Why not Black Ops 3? Because technically Black Ops 4 comes before 3, because that's apparently how Call of Duty works now. But we're going to talk about the hidden single player of Black Ops 4 and why it was better off hidden.
Okay. And of course, for me, there's buttons coming up. Click on them if you want to see things. We will see you back here for more lists as they come up. And honestly, we might end up doing a whole if this Rebel Galaxy proves to be as good as I'm told, we may end up doing a whole show about how amazing Rebel Galaxy is. So that should be a ton of fun. We will see you back here for more. But until then, I'm going to say that's right. Au revoir.